Let me ask you something before I start. Have you ever been in an ambulance? Not as a paramedic, not as a bystander, as the patient, strapped to a gurney, moving fast through the dark, completely dependent on the people around you. The city outside the windows reduced to streaks of light you can't quite orient yourself by. There is a specific helplessness to that experience, a specific surrender. Your body has failed you in some way and strangers are taking you somewhere, and all you can do is lie there and trust the process and try to stay conscious. I know that feeling from both sides now. I have been a paramedic in a mid-sized city in rural Alabama for 14 years. I have been the one in the back of the rig keeping someone alive 100 times over. And I have been the one on the gurney exactly once, for reasons I'm going to tell you about tonight. But here's the thing. Here's what I need you to understand before I start. The night I ended up on that gurney was not because of anything that happened to me physically. It was because of a call. One specific call. In 14 years of night shifts in Alabama, one call that I have never been able to explain, that I have told exactly 3 people about, and that I am going to tell you now because I am done carrying it alone. Stay with me. This is going to take a while. My name is Curtis Hale. I'm 47 years old. I've been a paramedic and then a senior paramedic for Covington County EMS in South Central Alabama since I was 33. Before that, I did 6 years in the Army as a combat medic, 2 deployments, and before that I worked construction for 4 years because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and at least construction paid the bills. I became a medic because I was good at it and because it mattered. That sounds simple, and it is simple. Some work matters and some doesn't, and I needed to be doing the kind that did. 14 years of night shifts in Covington County. I've worked with 3 different partners over those years, the one who retired, the one who moved to Birmingham for a better situation, and my current partner, a woman named Deja, who is the best medic I've ever worked beside and who I will not involve in this story because what happened that night is mine to tell and not hers, and because she has her own way of understanding it that I don't want to speak for. I'll say only that Deja was there. She saw what I saw, and we have never discussed it, not once in the 3 years since it happened. And I think that says something about the nature of the experience that I can't quite put into words directly. Some things you can only understand in parallel, side by side, without looking at each other. Covington County is in the flatlands of South Alabama, pine forest and small farms, and the kind of small cities that exist primarily because the surrounding rural population needs somewhere to go for medical care and groceries and the basic services of a functioning community. The county seat is a city called Florala, population around 2,000, and the EMS station where I work is just off the main highway on the south side of town. The county covers about 1,000 square miles. At night, on certain shifts, you can go 6 or 7 hours without a call, and then get 3 in 90 minutes, and the rhythm of it is completely unpredictable in a way that you stop fighting after the first few years and just accept. You keep your skills sharp. You rest when you can. You stay ready. I have driven every road in Covington County at night. The paved roads and the dirt roads and the fire roads and the 2 tracks through pine farms that show up on GPS and sometimes don't exist when you get there. I know the county the way you know something you've navigated in the dark 1,000 times. Not by sight, by feel. The call that I'm going to tell you about came in at 2:17 in the morning on a Wednesday in late October. 3 years ago this fall. The dispatch was straightforward. Medical emergency, possible cardiac event, address on a county road about 12 miles southeast of Florala. 71-year-old male, wife reporting he'd woken up complaining of chest pain and left arm numbness. The classic presentation. We've run 1,000 of those calls. I was driving. Deja was in the back, prepping the equipment. Lights and siren on the county road at 2 in the morning, which means fast, the road empty, the pine forest on both sides a blur in the headlights. The address we'd been given was on County Road 87, which I knew. A long straight road running east through pine timber country, mostly farmhouses and timber operation infrastructure, very few permanent residences. The address number matched a property I'd been to once before, maybe 4 years earlier, for a minor fall. Older couple. The Garretts, I thought, though I wasn't certain. We found the turnoff and pulled onto the property drive. Long gravel driveway through pines, single-story house at the end, porch light on, a woman standing on the porch waving us in. Standard arrival. We pulled the gurney, went inside. The patient was a man named Harold Garrett, 71 years old. His wife was Helen. He was in his bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, pale and sweating, left arm pain radiating to the jaw. Classic MI presentation. We assessed, started treatment, got him stabilized enough to move. We loaded Harold onto the gurney. Helen wanted to ride with us. Standard, we made room for her in the cab with me. Deja would ride in back with Harold. I got in, started the rig, called our status to dispatch. En route to the hospital in Andalusia, 31 miles north. Harold was conscious. Deja had him on the monitor. Vitals were concerning but not critical. We needed to move. I pulled out of the driveway onto County Road 87 heading west back toward the highway. That was the last normal moment of the call. I've been trying to find the right way to describe what happened next for 3 years, and I still don't have it. I'm going to tell you the facts in the order they occurred, and I'm going to let you sit with them the way I've had to sit with them. About 2 miles west of the Garrett property, County Road 87 crosses a 1-lane bridge over a drainage canal. Small bridge, concrete, maybe 40 feet long, no railing on the sides. I crossed it 100 times. I knew it was there. I crossed it without incident, nothing unusual, driving fast with the lights going. About a mile past the bridge, my radio crackled. Dispatch, coming in broken and staticky the way radio gets in heavy pine coverage. The dispatcher said, "Unit 7, confirm your current location." I said we were on County Road 87, approximately 7 miles east of the highway, en route to Andalusia. Dispatch said, "Unit 7, we are showing your GPS position as stationary. Confirm you are moving." I said yes, we were moving. We were doing about 65 on the county road. Dispatch said, "Unit 7, your GPS is showing you at the Garrett property. Are you still on scene?" I said no, we had left the scene approximately 3 minutes ago and were en route. There was a pause. Dispatch said, "Unit 7, your signal has not moved since 0224. It is now 0231. Confirm you are mobile." I said I was mobile. I said we were moving. I could see the headlights on the road ahead of me. I could feel the vehicle moving. I could hear Harold in the back asking Deja what was happening. Dispatch said they would check the GPS equipment and call back. I drove. Helen Garrett was in the cab with me. She was quiet, the particular tight quiet of a person who is managing fear by concentrating on not showing it. She was holding a small purse in her lap and looking at the road ahead. At some point, maybe a minute after the exchange with dispatch, she said very quietly, "Have we passed the bridge yet?" I said yes, about a mile back. She was quiet again. Then she said, "I don't remember this stretch of road." I said, "It's dark. It all looks the same at night." She said, "No, I've lived on this road for 40 years. I know every house. I know where every driveway is." She paused. "There aren't any driveways here." I looked at the road ahead. She was right that there were no driveways visible, but that wasn't unusual. Long stretches of County Road 87 were timber company land. No residences for a mile or more at a time. I said, "We're probably in the timber section." She said, "There is no timber section on this side of the bridge. There are houses and farms all the way to the highway from here. I know every one of them." I kept driving. The pine trees on both sides were dense, close to the road. No gaps, no driveways, no mailboxes, none of the human infrastructure that lines a county road with residential density. I looked at my own GPS on the dashboard unit. It showed us on County Road 87, moving west toward the highway. Everything looked right on the screen. But the odometer was telling me we had been driving for 6 minutes since leaving the bridge. At 65 miles an hour, 6 minutes on a straight county road should have put us at the highway or close to it. We were still in the pines. I slowed down. I want to be honest about why I slowed down. Not because I was afraid, because I was confused, and when I'm confused on a call, I slow down. I've had bad outcomes happen to people because medics move too fast through confusion, and I made myself a rule a long time ago: when something doesn't add up, slow down. I slowed to about 30 miles an hour. Deja knocked on the partition between the cab and the patient compartment. The standard knock that means, "Are you okay up there?" I knocked back the standard response, "Yes, okay." But I was not okay. I was looking at a county road I had driven 100 times and not recognizing it. Not because it looked different, because it looked exactly the same as itself. The same pine forest, the same road surface, the same county road, but extended in a way that wasn't geographically possible. Helen Garrett said, "Stop the vehicle." I said, "Ma'am, I can't stop. Harold needs." She said, "Stop the vehicle right now." Something in her voice, not panic, not hysterics, the voice of someone who has understood something before you have and is not asking. I stopped. The engine running, lights on, the pine forest on both sides, nobody on the road ahead of us or behind. Helen Garrett was looking out the passenger window. Her hands were still folded on her purse. Her expression was the one I had seen on people in the back of my rig sometimes, the expression of someone who has made peace with something. She said, "Roll down your window." I rolled it down. She said, "Listen." I listened. The engine, the electrical hum of the medical equipment from the back. Wind in the pines, very faint. And underneath all of that, something else. Water. The sound of water moving over rock or concrete. Close. Very close. A bridge. We had not crossed a second bridge. County Road 87 had one bridge on that stretch, the one over the drainage canal, and we had crossed it. There was no second bridge between the drainage canal and the highway. I knew this road. I had driven it 100 times. The sound of running water from directly ahead. Helen said, "Turn around." I said, "Mrs. Garrett, I don't understand what..." She said, "Turn around right now. Do not go to that bridge." Her voice, the same voice, absolute. I turned around. I want to tell you what happened when I turned around, because this is the part that I have never been able to explain to my own satisfaction, and that I believe most fully when I think about it at night, and least fully when I try to explain it in the daytime. When I completed the three-point turn on that county road and got the rig pointed back east, my headlights showed the road ahead, going back the way we'd come. And maybe a quarter mile ahead of us, in the headlights, the one-lane bridge over the drainage canal was visible. We had not driven a quarter mile past that bridge. We had driven 6 minutes at 65 miles an hour past that bridge. I sat in the driver's seat and I looked at the bridge that should not have been a quarter-mile away, and I understood with complete physical certainty that we had been somewhere that was not the place the GPS showed us and not the place the road was supposed to be. And I drove across that bridge and kept going west and reached the highway in the time it should have taken and got Harold Garrett to the hospital in Andalusia, and the cardiologist who worked on him said another 20 minutes and it would have been a different outcome. 20 minutes. Harold is still alive. He came to my station with Helen the following spring to say thank you, the way some families do. He brought a pie. We stood on the EMS station steps and he shook my hand, and Helen stood beside him and looked at me and said nothing, and I looked at her and said nothing, and we understood each other completely. I filed a standard call report. Everything on the report was accurate to the best of my knowledge. I did not include the section about the road. I did not include Helen Garrett's instructions to stop and turn around. I did not include the sound of the water or the bridge that was not there. I have thought about whether that was the right decision for 3 years. The professional answer is that the call report is supposed to be a factual account of the medical care provided, not an account of anomalous events on the road, and by that standard I filed an accurate report. The other answer is that I omitted something true. I've sat with both of those and I'm still sitting with them. What I know is this: Helen Garrett had lived on County Road 87 for 40 years. She knew that road better than I did, which is saying something. And when she told me to stop and told me to listen and told me to turn around, she was not afraid. She was not confused. She was the opposite of confused. She knew exactly where we were, and she knew exactly why we had to turn around. I have never asked her what she knew. I have thought about asking, and every time I think about it, I decide against it. Some knowledge belongs to the person who holds it. Some things are not mine to understand. What I am allowed to understand is this: we were on County Road 87 on a Wednesday night in late October, and something turned us around before we got to a bridge that should not have been there. And Harold Garrett got to the hospital with 20 minutes to spare, and he is alive right now, eating pie and watching television and mowing his lawn on Saturday mornings. And Helen Garrett stood on my station steps and said nothing, and I said nothing, and we both knew exactly what had been given back to us on that road. I ended up on a gurney about an hour after we got back to the station. Not because I was injured, because my hands would not stop shaking, and Deja, who saw everything I saw and has never once mentioned it, insisted on a blood pressure check, and when she got the reading she insisted on more, and eventually the doc on call came and sat with me and talked me through it, and by 4 in the morning I was mostly functional again. I have never had that kind of response on a call before. 14 years, multiple traumas, multiple losses, the full range of what this work puts in front of you. That one call, that one road, those 20 minutes. The night that a county road in Alabama was longer than it should have been, and a 71-year-old woman told me to stop and listen and turn around, and a man is alive because we did. I don't understand it. I don't need to understand it. What I know is that the road knew what we needed, and someone on that road knew how to read it. And when she told me to turn around, I listened. That's the job. That's always been the job. Listen to the person in front of you. They usually know more than you think. That's the story. 14 years of night shifts. One call I couldn't explain. One woman who knew something I didn't and wasn't afraid to say so. Harold Garrett is alive. That's the part one come back to every time. If the story stayed with you, if you're still thinking about Helen Garrett on that road, about the sound of water from a bridge that wasn't there, hit that subscribe button. I put these stories out for the people who understand that the most important things that happen are often the ones that don't make it into the official report. Hit like 2. It takes 2 seconds, and it tells the algorithm that this kind of story deserves to reach the people who need to hear it. And there are people who need to hear this one. People who have been on a road at night that felt wrong. People who've had the instinct to stop and couldn't name why. People who've listened to someone who knew something they didn't understand yet. This one's for them. And leave a comment. I mean it. Tell me if you've worked nights in emergency services. Tell me about the call you can't explain. Tell me about the road that didn't add up. Tell me about the person who told you to stop and you listened. This channel is a record. Every comment is part of it. I'll be listening. See you on the next one.